Good afternoon, Lali Mohammed here from Prodeviant Productions, where we join you in the Courthouse District. Inside, a symposium is being held by Social Planning Toronto. Let's figure out their vision, some of the challenges they face, and the opportunities they hope to take advantage of.
So what I'd like to see us move towards is the intersection. And the intersection, the blank Jowl and the cloud argue, is the community. It's the well-being of our children, our youth, our communities, and our families.
Around 300 individuals from a variety of progressive educational and social institutions, such as school trustees, service providers, and academics have gathered today to discuss and uncover the current barriers in the education system. Issues like the funding formula and lack of civic engagement are being tackled. Guest speakers are examining schools as community hubs. That is, schools turned into neighborhood centers of learning all year round. We're now with Denise Campbell, the Acting Director for Community Planning in the City of Toronto. What are you doing here today?
Well, I've been invited to talk about the city's interest and roles in relating to trying to create more schools as community hubs. And it's a really exciting dialogue for us because we're doing a lot of work to try to make sure that community hubs happen, particularly in under-resourced neighborhoods.
As a school board trustee for Scarborough Southwest, why are you here today, and what are some of the issues and challenges going on in your community?
I think to answer the first question, why I'm here is really to learn. I think there are a lot of qualified and educated people, and more importantly, people with experience.
What's your vision of a community hub?
Well, I think there's two different basic visions. So one of the visions that people have been talking about here is about trying to co-locate multiple services inside operating schools, so that residents, parents, young people in schools could have more access to services. And then there's the other opportunity, which is taking schools that have been closed and turning them into a combination of community-based services and programs as well as city-based services and programs.
And I think ultimately, as the title of the symposium is Schools as Community Hubs, I'm a big believer in that idea, especially being and hoping to represent a ward that's incredibly diverse. Not only ethnically but religiously as well. And I think with the diversity, there is a tendency for communities to live in silos, and as a result, we have increasing diversity, but no unity. And I think schools as community hubs are the best vehicle to create unity in a diverse society.
They imagine community hubs working from a holistic foundation where learning is understood as a healthy relationship between the family, the community, and the self. The hub would include daycare services, settlement services, public health services like mental health counseling, and social activities that encourage community building. We're now with Kathy Dandy, a sitting TDSB trustee for Toronto Danforth and a director at a children's mental health institution. Kathy, what are you doing here today?
I have been working on the subject of schools as community hubs for years. Prior to becoming elected, I was a community activist, a parent activist, and I'm just passionate about this. I have 3 kids, and I totally recognize that coming into those school buildings and just teaching them curriculum is not nearly enough. It's logical that we be supporting them in a whole bunch of different ways.
It's clear that people are searching for a balance. Seeing as you're deeply connected with Ward 19, are there particular challenges in that ward?
Ward 19 is also well integrated into the rest of the city. We have great transit. You know, we have a subway, we have streetcars, we have buses. However, so I think the idea of community hubs is very important everywhere, but it's particularly important in those parts of Toronto where there's not great transit. You know, where you have newer Torontonians. Because in my area, it's older, settled now.
Seeing as there has constantly been a challenge for young children with mental disparities.
is there particular challenges for them in school systems and the resources for them?
Huge. Children struggling with a mental illness, and it's 1 in 5, so 20% of our population has a diagnosable illness, and that's across culture, across economic strata. And that's not there's a real stigma around that. I mean, there's a feeling like, oh, mental illness, but it's like having diabetes, or it's like having, leukemia. I mean, kids have illnesses, they have mental illnesses as well. But the good news is if we get to them early, we can either prevent it or we can treat it.
What particular steps would you take if you won the election in October?
Well, the first step I would take is initiate the process of renewing the priority neighborhoods concept, because that project was very successful, and I want to also incorporate more of this, the concept of community hubs, because we began the process as part of that and expanded to more neighborhoods. That's what I do, and that requires funding, requires working with Social Planning Toronto, requires working with the United Way, Toronto City Summit Alliance, the other orders of government, and obviously the communities that are involved.
And the other thing they say to us is, don't spend, don't spend, don't spend. That's our civic engagement right now. Yours is, my kids need more, my kids need more, my kids need more. That's your civic engagement every time you get in the gymnasium. The conversation that I'm confronted with is quite different.
We're now with Shelley Carroll, current budget chief and councillor. Simply, Cheryl, what's the problem?
Well, what I tried to explain to the audience today is that we have to wrap our heads around the fact that we engage the public differently. We engage from a place of keep my taxes low, but we do have a community hub strategy of our own. It's quite different at the school board level, where the civic engagement is all around make school better for my children. Because it's a different funding model and it's the province that has the funding discussion, civic engagement at the TDSB and the TCDSB is make it better, make it better, make it better. For us, the conversation is make it cheaper, make it cheaper, make it cheaper. We have to begin to get those two groups together.
After finishing with their working groups, participants feel there's a huge disconnect with the municipal and provincial governments and the communities they serve. Some of the suggestions were better dialogue, identifying the real, actual stakeholders, ongoing funding and support for full-service schools, and finally, engagement in the election process. The City of Toronto's election is on October 25th, 2010. Participate and make your voice heard. In solidarity, this is Lali Mohammed from Prodeviant Productions.